Hey everybody. So it's been a long day at work, and just wanted to make a video for you guys talking about something that I think is very important, that got some ducks on the water there. Like mallards. So anyway, wanted to talk with you guys about another way to protect yourself. Now, you know, with prepping, it's pretty much all about protecting yourself in one way or another. Protecting yourself from criminals, protecting yourself from people who want to attack you, protecting yourself from, disasters, tornadoes, ice storms, all that kind of stuff. Also, check the boiler real quick. Another thing that you want to protect yourself from is crazy liberals who want to hurt people that have opinions that differ from theirs. And so that is at least partially what this is going to be about. I put a few notes down, but I'm trying to decide if I want to put this all in one video or break it into two. It might be a little longer. So first thing, I guess, the first point on this is that, well, let me go into a little background. What I think is happening within our society, or greater culture at large, is that there is a difference in understanding and a difference in language that is taking place between those who are more liberal and those who are more conservative. And so there's a lot of people, we don't speak the same language anymore. And this is problematic, and it's primarily going to be problematic for people who are more conservative. And I say this because there's a common language amongst conservatives and preppers and people who love the Constitution and our founding fathers and those kinds of things, where they talk about possibility of revolution and the founding fathers and things that they have done in the past, and there's this sense that, well, it could be that those things happen again in the future. Now, I personally, although I have wavered back and forth, I don't particularly think that's going to happen right now. And I know a lot of you guys are like shaking your head going, "You're crazy, there's a civil war coming." And I just don't think so. There's a lot of reasons for that, and we could talk about that in maybe another video. I don't know that we'll get there in this one tonight. It's a little bit chilly out here. The difference in language. Okay, so when conservatives and preppers and people who believe in the founding fathers and those kinds of things talk about revolution, they're not generally speaking about it in the context of an implied threat. Usually it's sort of more like an existential threat. Like, yes, we exist, we're here, don't try to take our guns and everything will be fine. Kind of like that is kind of the way. But it's not a specific implied threat like, I'm going to offensively come after you. It's more like a defensive threat, like, don't tread on me, don't mess with me, and we'll be fine. However, that's my understanding of it. Now, many liberals and liberal organizations don't interpret the information the same way. They interpret the information, talking about a revolution, or talking about your right to bear arms, or talking about whatever, to be an implied threat. They think it means that you're going to come after them. And so there are actually groups now that proactively go out and look for information that to them appears to be hateful or threatening or whatever the case may be. And then they report that information, en masse, really, to law enforcement agencies and different things like that. And, that's fine. You see publicly available information, and you believe that it's a threat to someone, you can take and report it to law enforcement agencies. There's nothing illegal about that. But looking at it from a conservative's point of view, this could be, and to you guys out there, everybody, the people that are in the prepping community or the pro-Second Amendment community or whatever the case may be, this could be a potential liability for you. And so what I'm about to say, I'm going to talk a little bit out of both sides of my mouth. So I think that it's to the point now where, and I have done this with many of my own profiles, Facebook and Twitter and all that. I think we're to the point that social media profiles are a liability if you are a person who is conservative, is pro-gun, is whatever, the prepper, that kind of thing. And so it's my recommendation to you that you delete your profiles, and if you don't do that, that's cool. Hey, I just give you guys thoughts and my recommendations, and you do what you want to do with it. I'm trying to provide information for you to protect your family and your loved ones and those kinds of things from situations that might suck, and sorry, I'm kind of playing with my tripod here as we're doing this. I don't think there's much to gain. Oh, sounds like somebody's here. It's probably my wife getting home. I don't think that there is much to gain from... There you are. It's kind of a bad angle. Sorry. I don't think there's much to gain from having social media profiles anymore. And let me go into some of the reasons why that is, why I say that. So part of it is because they're really nothing but an echo chamber. So when you post something, your 3%er meme, or your AR-15 pictures, or your Thomas Jefferson quote about watering the tree of liberty with the blood of tyrants and patriots, or something like that, then that's not going out to anybody except for other people who think like you. But you're sending out this signal to the world that is being interpreted incorrectly. Okay, I know what you're trying to say, but it's being interpreted incorrectly, and so there are people who can take that and try to use it against you, and that's a shame. Now, that in and of itself probably isn't going to cause any issue for you, because most law enforcement officers are, able to see through that, and they understand, your constitutional rights to free speech and Second Amendment and all those kinds of things. But let's say you had a bad day and you put some post out that, expresses anger with the political process, and you make an implied threat that, whatever, that you should do some bad thing, or that the time is over and, you gotta stand up now and fight against tyranny or whatever, which is not true, by the way. I'll just throw this in there, and that, the founding fathers did not advocate revolution based off of small and minor infractions. They advocated fighting against tyranny when all other options have been exhausted. There's nothing you can do in the courts, there's nothing you can do through legislation, there's nothing you can do through the voting process, and you're being completely oppressed. Now, some people say, well, we're already there. Well, we're not there. We're really not. There's plenty of things that we can do to fight, and regardless of how this election goes with the presidential election, we've seen pretty good results for conservative elections in the House and those kinds of things. So, and the Supreme Court, and the nominations in the Supreme Court and all that kind of stuff. So there's still plenty of ways that you can fight within the system, and we can talk about that some more here in a little bit too. So, my main point to you is that social media profiles are a liability. And I understand that there are people out there who have businesses, and they have reasons that they think they have in their head that they have to keep these things in order to, be able to make a living or whatever. And if that's the case, so be it. I would recommend to you, at least if you're going to keep your profiles, go back and sanitize them and get rid of anything that could be misconstrued by a snowflake, unicorn, peace-loving, hippie communist to be threatening, or, look at it from a completely opposite viewpoint as your own, and try to make sure that your profile doesn't have anything in it, going back years, that could be misconstrued the wrong way. I think that would be helpful for everybody to do. And I can hear you guys, right? I can hear you guys saying, JJ, it's my freedom of speech. I didn't threaten anybody. I get it, man. I totally get it. I know what you're saying. I'm just trying to present to you what the reality is of the world that we live in this quote-unquote new normal. It's definitely not normal, and it's definitely not new, but anyhow, so let's say, if you do want to keep social media, I know Instagram is bad about censoring people too, but there's a lot less said, generally speaking, in the comments. If you need a profile for, like sharing family pictures with family or something, just do an Instagram account and don't comment on anything or whatever, like, I don't know. I don't like that they're owned by Facebook. I do still have an Instagram account, but Parler is another one that's kind of up and coming for conservatives. But again, you have to be mindful about what you post, because posting stupid things and making stupid comments on posts and even other people's posts, it's just a liability. It really is. So I've talked to you in the past about, using more secure email and those kinds of things. I recommend Proton Mail. And then as far as, using browsers go, the internet browsers, Brave is pretty good. Mozilla Firefox is pretty good if you set the settings right. And then you can use a VPN. Proton has a VPN as well. Those are all good to use to help increase security. I also recommend that if you decide that you're going to keep your social media posts and whatever, then at least go in and lock down your security settings so that nobody but your friends can see anything. It's just just makes sense. Another option to you is if you're like, hey, I want to get in there and fight the good fight on social media because I don't know what other ways I can fight back against this stuff. Then open alias profiles utilizing VPNs and alias type names or whatever that don't put your own pictures on there, make it more difficult to identify or whatever. But here's something you got to understand: you still can't make threatening comments or posts on even those kind of profiles. Okay, you just can't do it because there's no way to hide on the internet. All right, basically is what I'm trying to tell you. If you are under scrutiny, you've done something wrong and that kind of thing, then there's no hiding on the internet. So I'll just leave that at that. But if you were going to do that, if you're going to make an alias profile or whatever, the smart thing to do would be to make it, one with pictures of pink bunnies and unicorns, and have a profile name of Star Child, and friend every liberal that you can, and politely explain to them the reasons that conservatism is good, or that Second Amendment rights are important, or whatever the case may be, and do that as a liberal in and amongst liberals, because doing it as a conservative is just not valuable. You're not getting anywhere. It's like spinning your wheels. You're stuck in the mud. You're not getting any point across. You're making no difference whatsoever. So if that's your fight and that's what you want to do, that's cool. Try to convince people online, go ahead, man. I mean, I've spent years trying to do it, and I don't think I've ever convinced anybody. So, whatever. Let's see here. Let me take a look at some notes that I had. I hope this is being received in the proper way that it's meant to be received. I'm just kind of flying off of the top of my head, and I think that a lot of this stuff is probably going to get worse, especially if we see Biden be elected. You can make an argument whether or not that's going to happen. Doesn't matter really one way or another whether he does or Trump is. This all still applies. Highly recommend that you get involved in your local level politics. Your school board, your PTA, I know it's not politics, but get involved in your children's education. If you can get them out of public school, get them homeschooled, that's even better. Although who knows how long that'll be around, because they may try to outlaw it. Go talk to your sheriff, go talk to anybody that you can talk to, get to know them, run for election yourself. You have to start changing things at the lowest level, and encourage all your friends to go do it with you. Because sitting back, having a job, and not being involved with the public is what got us here. Just letting you know. That's we can moan and complain and blame other people all we want about a lot of things, but the bottom line is we were not as involved as we needed to, and we didn't convince as many people as we needed to about why we believe what we believe. Okay, so I'm not, even though I'm saying disengage in social media, I'm saying that because it's an echo chamber and it's a liability. There are other ways in person that you can still be involved and still make an actual difference. Getting to know people and making friends with people who think slightly different than you, and trying to be an influence in their life is one way. But online, the way that it's generally gone about, it's just not, it doesn't work. Sorry, we're running out of daylight real fast here. Okay, move to a rural area. I've talked about this a lot in the past, and I cannot encourage you enough to try to move into a rural area in a place that is, more similar to your line of thinking, whatever that may be. Let me see how I can. So I have a lot on my mind, if you can't tell. People who live in the city, over the next year or two or whatever, are probably going to be at a much higher risk of targeted violence, especially if you are a person who wears, MAGA hats and Molon Labe t-shirts, and you've got Trump 2020 bumper sticker and those kinds of things. Knowing your surroundings and knowing the right time and place to advertise those things is probably pretty important. And living in the midst of it in the city, again, it's just about trying to increase the odds that you can protect yourself. I think living in the city, you are decreasing the odds dramatically. So I recommend against it. And I understand that not everybody can do it, and it's hard, it's expensive. I get it, man. But it's probably going to be valuable to you. I know I sleep much more soundly at night where I'm at now than being in the city. That's a hell of a hill. I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, you can't. Okay, what's next? Getting involved in or supporting firearms organizations is probably more important now and it has been in a long, long time. Uh-oh. Oh, looks like Tanner got home earlier. Now Stacy's home. Anyway, be good, girls. She's probably gonna walk in here and interrupt me. Okay, so where were we? Being involved in firearms support organizations is probably more important than ever. You know, even, God, I hate to say it, even the NRA, but you know, the other ones as well. Firearms, what is the name of it? Policy organization, and Gun Owners of America, and you know, just all those different ones, and your state level ones, and you know, that kind of stuff. That is really, really important. Having self-defense type insurance like USCCA and all that kind of stuff, also very important to do. If you get into a shooting, you're going to want to have some coverage on that from a legal perspective. So I think that's important. I've been looking into even signing up with them as an affiliate, because I think it's an important time to have that stuff. Let's see here. So I apologize for not being more fluid on this one. Home security, that's the next thing. And again, I've talked quite a bit about this before in the past, but it's really important, I think, to make sure that you have good home security. Now, if you don't want a whole home security system, that's probably fine. It's no big deal. Simply Safe seems to be a pretty good, easy to do, kind of easy to set up thing. But you know, you got the other ones. I think ADT may have been bought out, but you know, you can get those traditional home security systems too. That's fine. But at a minimum, I recommend having at least a floodlight with a camera, a motion activated camera on the front of your house. And then subscribe to the services to have those backed up wirelessly. If you get into a situation where somebody comes onto your property and they're trying to do you and your family harm, having that video that you can show that you were not the aggressor, that you were innocent, and that you were just trying to defend yourself and that kind of thing is hugely important, and can be very, very beneficial, and it can just stop a lot of problems that may have happened if you didn't have that. So I really recommend taking a look at your home security situation and making that as strong as possible. You know, same thing with getting like door armor and stuff like that, where you know, you put these metal braces on the side of your doors, and it just makes them a lot more difficult to kick in and stuff like that. And I'm an affiliate with those guys as well, armorconcepts.com. That's not my purpose in mentioning it. I'm just letting you know that I believe in it. You know, that I think that they're worthwhile to have, because they make your home much more difficult to penetrate and to get into. And so that gives you time to be able to relax, or to react, to call the police, and to do whatever the case may be that you need to do. Okay. So obviously, you know, moving forward in this new world, there's obviously going to be more lockdowns. We're already seeing that. There's probably going to be supply chain shortages. You know, all the basics of prepping still apply. Same, you know, food, water, you know, making sure that stuff's squared away, making sure that you got a good get home bag, that you've got a good bug out bag, and plans on where you want to go if something happens. You know, are you realistically going to go out and live in the middle of the wilderness? Probably not. I would hate to do it. I would hate to take my family out into the woods in the middle of nowhere if I had other options, and I know how to live pretty well in the wilderness. But unless you spend a lot of time doing it, and your families spend a lot of time doing it, then that's probably not a very realistic option for most people. So maybe going to a family's house, going to, a friend's place in a different state or different region, those might be more realistic options. What else was I going to say? I was going to say something else to you guys, and if you're living in the city, kind of like I was talking earlier. Oh, here comes Stacy. What's up, babe? Okay. So, like we were talking about earlier, if you're a person who lives in a city, you're surrounded by liberals and all that kind of stuff. Take a look at some of the stuff we've talked about on gray man concepts, because that's what you are going to need, okay, in those cities. If you're living in a place, unless you just want to fight, right? Like if you just feel like you want to, like I'm a big bad son bitch and you want to bring it my way, go ahead. That's fine. Then, wear the Molon Lab shirts and all that kind of stuff. Like me, out here where I live, that's normal. That's what everybody wears. So I blend in. That is applying gray man principles where I live, because wearing those kind of clothes makes you look like a local. But if you live in New York City or Chicago or wherever, wearing those kind of clothes makes you stand out, and it makes you a target. And so you're essentially, even though you're just expressing your rights, totally get it, you're still making yourself a target, okay? And so applying those gray man principles and wearing just generic, plain colored clothing, is probably smart. For example, when I go to work, I don't wear anything but, just button-up shirts, basic, slacks, nothing identifiable one way or another, and that's what I recommend is just wear clothing that you can't really tell what your affiliation is one way or another. Same thing with your car. Make sure you pull the bumper stickers off. Make sure you sanitize your vehicle. Don't have anything on there, because it's just inviting conflict, and you're asking to be targeted, even though you're not. You still are. Okay. So, and again, I'm trying to be realistic about everything here, right? We can act like we're idealistic and we live in a completely free society where we can all do these things and there's no consequences. Well, we can do those things, sure, but there's definitely consequences, okay? And so that's what I'm talking about. And we're seeing those consequences over and over and over and over again. And so we have to take it seriously, right? I think that the most important thing about moving forward in this environment, and how do we spread ideals and get people to understand why we think the way we do, and that we're not racists, that we're not homophobes, and that we're not xenophobic, and all those kinds of things, is that we have to explain things to people on a one-on-one level in situations that invite it. So don't be afraid. I'm not saying that I think that you should be afraid to engage in conversations, because you should be willing to engage in conversations, and that's probably how we change people's minds. Is you might not change their mind in your conversation, but if you can make a cogent argument to them, and they think about that for a little while, even though they may not have disagreed with you then, you're planting a seed, and that seed may grow later on, right? And so knowing your facts, backing those facts up, and having good information to be able to give people when you engage with them is smart. It's not going to work on every instance though, and some people might say, well, I wear these clothes that show what my conservative thoughts are and all that kind of stuff, because I want to invite conversation. The problem is that when it used to be a good idea to do that, right? Like you used to be able to talk to people in those kinds of situations, and they wouldn't prejudge you, and they wouldn't label you and all that kind of stuff. But that's just not how society is now. And so when you have all that stuff, and you're wearing all those things, and whatever the case may be, you're already getting prejudged, and it's going to cut off conversation opportunities. And if you are a gray man and you're wearing just basic clothes and that kind of stuff, not making too much of a statement or whatever, then you will probably see people and have people engage in conversation with you more frequently and more often, and then you can determine the right times and the right places to be able to slide in those food for thought kind of ideas and information to help educate people a little bit more. So I think that we have to look for those opportunities to have discussions with people to try to help them understand. Because yelling it to each other on social media and bowing up and making posts about, how many guns you have, and that, you're not going to take it for long, and all these kinds of things, it does nothing. It literally is completely useless. And all you're doing is putting information out there that liberal snowflakes can try to use to make you look like a bad guy. And so don't do it. Don't buy into it, because it's not putting out anything that's actually helpful. So not that all those things that I don't agree with, all that stuff. You guys know me, right? You know what my thoughts are on founding fathers and all that kind of stuff. It's just that we have to, as the situation evolves, because the situation is evolving, right? Like if you think that we're in the same place that we were 5 years ago, we are not. We're not at all. It's a different world that we live in now, and if we don't adjust with that accordingly, and if we're not smart about how we go about doing things, then we're never going to change people's minds. We're never going to change the status of elections, and we're not going to see things change in a positive way for us. That's just reality. And I changed the YouTube channel name back to Reality Survival, because surviving reality is, well, there's a lot of reasons I changed it back. But anyway, it's, we need to think about the reality that we live in, right? And so that's what this video is really about. And so I'm urging you guys to think about what your social media presence is and what it portrays. And I'm not specifically singling out anybody individually. I'm just saying in general, take an objective look at your profiles. And I think most people should just delete them. Facebook and Twitter, they're so arrogant in the way that they censor people and all that. And honestly, if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I would probably get rid of YouTube too. And I know that it doesn't benefit me by saying that, but I've chosen to be a public person and to try to help people with disaster preparedness and all that kind of stuff. So that's the risk that I take. But as far as Facebook and Twitter, they're gone. I mean, I had a large prepper group, that group that was called Prepper Skills. It had more than 40,000 people in it. Deleted it gone. My Facebook page for Reality Survival gone. And I made, money off of those things through affiliates and all that kind of stuff. And I don't like their terms of service. I don't like how they can monitor almost everything that you do on smartphones, and the way that they listen in and all this kind of stuff. It's just a liability. A good communication app is Signal. That's a fairly secure. It's like a wireless texting app or whatever. As opposed to using like Facebook Messenger or whatever. There are other ones out there that people think that are secure that are not secure. So I'm not going to mention those, but what else? Yeah, so I hope that you guys don't misinterpret what I'm saying as, roll over and don't do anything. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you should be active on your local level. Worry about what you can control, right? Start with your family. If your family doesn't understand conservative principles and doesn't understand prepping and all those kind of things, you don't need to worry about anything else except for that. Get that squared away first. Then when your family's squared away, then talk to your friends and your neighbors. Then when that's squared away, then go into your community. Think of it in like concentric rings of influence. Only worry about the things that you can influence. If you don't have your house squared away, and you and your wife maybe, or you and your kids are on different levels or different pages or whatever the case may be, that's the most central thing that you can change and influence that will have the biggest impact, right? That'll make a big difference. Start there and work your way out. Friends and neighbors, you got to talk with them. You got to understand where they're coming from and help to educate them on a one-on-one level. You got to do it. And I know there's a lot of people that are watching that are saying, my neighbors are douchebags and they're terrible, and there's no way that I can have those conversations with them. You got to be strategic about it. You don't got to be blatant. You don't got to, think about it and be crafty. It's a serious thing. What we're talking about is because the country is going to either go socialism or we're going to correct course and go back to a constitutional republic. Or eventually, maybe down the road, that there's going to be violence. Now, I do think that there'll be, like I said earlier, in the cities and stuff, I think there'll be, regardless of who's president, I think that you're still going to see Antifa and BLM and all those kinds of things be rioting and causing distress and targeting people. There's these, what they call it, the Reconciliation Project and all this kind of stuff that they're doing, where they're starting to take names and try to get people where they can't get jobs in certain industries and all that kind of stuff. So you're already seeing retaliation for all this stuff. And so that's not going to stop. There is going to be some violence. I don't think we'll go into civil war, but you never know, right? You never know. And so you just apply the basic prepping principles and just be ready for anything. Be ready to defend your home and yourself if somebody tries to come and attack you. So that's all I'm recommending. But these profiles they're a significant liability. They really are. I said that a million times, so I'm going to stop repeating myself. But again, hopefully I've conveyed this message with enough urgency that you understand where I'm coming from, and that you don't think that I'm just trying to say give up the fight. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying stop fighting in the arena that all the rules are tilted against you. Stop fighting in that social media realm where you will never win and you'll never influence anybody, and it doesn't make any difference. But all it does present you with liabilities. So that's really my main message, is just to disengage in that arena and then re-engage in the areas that you can control. That's really the overarching theme of this video, I guess. And before I go, I'd like to make a couple of book recommendations. Let's see, Apocalypse Never by Michael Schellenberger. It's a great book. He exposes how climate change is what it's being used for, and what the reasons are behind why they're trying to do the things they are with climate change. So that's a great example of a book that you could talk with other liberal people about why climate change isn't what it seems. He's a very credible author. He was the Times Climate Man of the Year. He's been a climate change insider for over 30 years, and he's still a liberal, but he wrote this book because his daughter and his daughter's friends were having nightmares about climate change and all this kind of stuff, and he was like, oh my gosh, this is getting carried away. And so he wrote this book, and it lays it out. It's a very good book. On the apocalyptic fiction genre, it's an oldie but a goodie. If you haven't seen it, then I recommend it. It's called Alas, Babylon. And I don't think nuclear war is something that we really have to worry about, but it's just a good genre of the apocalyptic fiction and stuff like that. So you might take a look at that one. But anyhow, that's pretty much it for today. I don't even know how long I went. Sorry, it's probably long. I hope that you understand. It's really not worth it. It's really not to try to keep giving these companies business. Go to Parler. I didn't care for MeWe and Minds. I tried both of those, and they just kind of sucked. I didn't really like them. But Parler seems pretty cool. I'm on there at American Prepping Academy. You can get a lot of information in your news feed and different things like that. A lot of the conservative thinkers are going over there. It's backed by a billionaire, so it's going to have the money and the staying power. So that's good. And they don't censor and all that kind of stuff. So there's that. Anyway, I think that's it. I can't think of anything else. So you guys stay safe and stay prepared. Talk to you later. Bye.